The night was cold, but there was no wind. In the empty parking lot of an industrial building, a single car sat, its engine off. From a distance, it looked abandoned. Up close, it was a perfect trap. Inside, under a worn blanket on the back seat, a remote control awaited the exact moment. The man in the driver's seat didn't blink, his eyes fixed on the steel door leading into the warehouse. Inside, laughter, loud music, and the metallic clinking of toasting glasses. He glanced at his watch, and for the first time in 8 years, a smile touched his lips. 30 seconds, he whispered. No one knew it, but in that instant, everyone inside was already dead. They just hadn't realized it yet. His name was Leonardo Vasques, 42 years old, a former mechanical engineer. The kind of man who believed everything could be calculated, from the flow of a production line to the quiet life he led with his wife Clara and his 9-year-old daughter Isabella. Until that night in April. Leonardo was at work when he received the call. A traffic accident. A speeding car, a red light ignored. The driver fled without rendering aid. Clara died instantly. Isabella? She survived, but spent weeks between life and death. The police found the abandoned car in a vacant lot. It belonged to Rogerio Bittencourt, owner of a logistics company. Influential friends, money, connections. The inquiry lasted just over 2 months. The case was closed due to insufficient evidence for direct accusation. Leonardo knew what that meant. Money had spoken louder. In the following months, he cared for his daughter and tried to move on. But every night, when he closed his eyes, he saw the image of the dented bumper and the dark stain on the asphalt. He wasn't a violent man, but he was a man who knew how to build things. And for the first time in his life, he was willing to build something to destroy. In the months following the case's closure, Leonardo seemed to disappear from the world. He stopped visiting old friends, closed his social media accounts, and took unpaid leave from the company where he worked. To neighbors and acquaintances, he was just a grieving man trying to care for a daughter who still limped when she walked. But in the solitude of the apartment, something grew. He spent hours in front of the computer, browsing obscure forums, watching videos on mechanics applied in contexts no one would call domestic. Spreadsheets and technical drawings covered the table. Small motors, rails, gears, parts ordered under false names. At night, he sat beside Isabella's bed. He listened to her slow breathing, and he swore, silently, that she would never again be a victim of a world that protected the guilty. Rogerio Bittencourt's face appeared in business magazines, smiling, inaugurating new warehouses. Leonardo collected these images as reminders. What was coming would not be a fit of rage. It would be a perfect calculation. Leonardo started with the basics. Observation. He bought a pair of powerful binoculars and rented, under a shell company, a small storage unit 200 meters from Rogerio's main warehouse. From there, he had a privileged view of the side entrance, where loads arrived at night. For 92 days, he recorded every movement. Trucks arriving always on Tuesdays and Fridays. The exact number of security guards per shift. The times the doors were left open for ventilation. He discovered that every last Friday of the month, Rogerio held a private party in the warehouse to celebrate results. About 20 guests, loud music, plenty of alcohol, and more relaxed security. It was in this detail that the plan began to take shape. Leonardo had experience with automated systems, using common parts, which, when combined, gained a lethal purpose. He assembled a retractable rail inside the trunk of an old sedan, bought at auction. He attached a light machine gun to it, adapted for remote firing. Control would be via a modified frequency device, operated from inside the car. But he wanted more than a simple attack. The car would have a firing system synchronized with motion sensors. When it detected human heat within the programmed field, the weapon would sweep the area in seconds. And there was one last touch. A self-destruct timer to erase all mechanical evidence. When the last shot was fired, the car would burn from the inside, as if it had never housed anything but scrap. It was the last Friday of the month. At Rogerio Bittencourt's warehouse, cases of drinks had been arriving since early morning. The sound of bass spread down the street, muffling the noise of the truck engines. Leonardo, dressed in a grease-stained jumpsuit, parked the old sedan on the opposite sidewalk, as if it were just another abandoned vehicle. No one paid attention. In that area, abandoned cars were common. From the back seat of the rented storage unit, he watched everything. The plan was timed to the second. The party was in full swing, and the side doors, the same ones he had observed for 3 months, were open to air out the place. The security guards were chatting, distracted by the smell of barbecue coming from inside, and the time was approaching. Leonardo picked up the remote control, a large red button in the center. He closed his eyes for a moment and saw the faces of Clara and Isabella at the hospital. When he opened them, his expression was pure steel. The click of the button was almost silent, but in the trunk of the sedan, a mechanism came to life. The rear panel slowly lifted, revealing a metal rail that slid outward. The attached machine gun rotated on its own, as if searching for a target, and it found one. The heat sensors picked up movement inside the warehouse. The system didn't need human aim. Each shot followed a programmed pattern to cover every inch of the open area. In seconds, the sound of music mixed with screams and dry snaps. Glass shattered, boxes flew, smoke began to fill the space. Leonardo didn't move. The control was in his hand, but the execution was automatic, a mechanical dance he himself choreographed. When the gun emptied its last magazine, a second circuit kicked in. The internal batteries heated up until they exploded, turning the trunk into an inferno that consumed every piece of the mechanism. Inside the warehouse, only silence and the smell of gunpowder. Leonardo crossed the street calmly, walked past the injured security guards, and entered. In the center, Rogerio was there, kneeling and in shock. Leonardo approached, took a photo of Clara and Isabella from his pocket, dropped it on the ground, and said, "This is for what you did." Without looking back, he left through the main door. The burned car no longer held anything that could be used as evidence, and when the police arrived, all they found was a destroyed warehouse and a question: was it revenge or murder? That night, Leonardo didn't go home. He drove to the deserted shore, parked, and stared at the sea. The sound of the waves muffled the echoes of what had happened hours before. He didn't feel exactly relief, nor guilt. It was a strange mix, as if he had closed one cycle but opened another, even more dangerous one. In the morning news, the headlines read, "Businessman suffers brutal attack. Suspected settling of scores in the logistics sector. Police investigate mysterious massacre." No evidence linked Leonardo to the crime. And even if there were, could anyone prove that a simple engineer built all of that? As Isabella ate breakfast, Leonardo watched her. Her shy smile, still marked by trauma, was the only answer he needed. But the inevitable question echoed in the back of his mind. If Clara were alive, would she approve of what he did, or would she be afraid of him? The car fire had already died down. Only a twisted wreck remained, reflecting the blue lights of the patrol cars. Leonardo watched from a distance, standing on the corner, as if he were just another curious onlooker. No one noticed when he turned and entered a dark alley. There, he leaned against the wall and took a deep breath. In his pocket, a small, scorched screw, the only piece he removed from the mechanism before activating it. He closed his hand, feeling the cold metal against his skin. Some would call it revenge, but others would call it justice. But for him, it was simply engineering applied to what mattered most.